Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, dish out on the movies. And today we are doing a movie. As a matter of fact, it's called We Can't Take It With You.
No, it's called You Can't Take It With You.
You Can't Take It With You. Sorry. I should know because they did say the line in the movie, the title in the movie a couple of times, at least once at the minimum.
And because you're the one who picked the movie.
Yes, I picked it, and don't ask me why. I thought I had seen it at some point in my life, but I don't. It didn't look familiar at all. But it is a Frank Capra movie, and if you're familiar with that name, he is the one who did It's a Wonderful Life. And some of the stars in this movie were in It's a Wonderful Life, like Jimmy Stewart, who's one of the main stars, and the man who played his father was Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life, and the main star, the female star, the man who played her father, played Jimmy Stewart's father in It's a Wonderful Life. And I don't know about anybody else in the movie, but I did recognize a few people, but I don't know where they are from or anything. But because this was a Frank Capra movie, and the other one was a Frank Capra movie, I could tell. And it was interesting too because the grandpa who played Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life, the characters couldn't be more opposite from each other in each movie. So I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah.
So, and I wondered, and I didn't look this up, but I will, in the It's a Wonderful Life movie, what is the name of this person, Marco? Because it slipped my brain.
What person?
The person who played the grandpa.
Which one?
Who's got the main role.
There's the fat guy and there's the skinny guy. Which one are you talking about?
The skinny guy. The one on crutches.
Lionel Barrymore.
Lionel Barrymore. I mean, famous man. And in the It's a Wonderful Life movie, he's a lot older, and he was in a wheelchair. And in this movie, he was on crutches, and his foot was bandaged up, and they had this story where he tripped over something, and he did something to his foot. But I'm wondering if he had some kind of problems with his legs or feet or something, because I just find it really coincidental that in both of these movies he needed something to help him walk, and he was on crutches during the whole movie. You Can't Take It With You, and the other movie he was in a wheelchair the whole movie. So,
and I should also say that this is a movie that Safi picked out for a comedy-themed week. She thought that, she was in between doing comedies and time travel movies, and for some reason she thought that this movie would make the perfect comedy, and she was really excited about it, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck that is. And it's a 1930s movie, and I thought that the first half was really, really slow and kind of like just messy, because a lot of it just kind of felt like it felt bizarre in a way, because it felt like a play. And then I looked up and it's like, oh yeah, it's based on a play, and it felt exactly like that, with just a lot of dialogue heavy scenes where you just have these couple of characters in this little set, and they talk, and the movie really didn't feel like it had a purpose to me until like over half of the movie was already over.
Yeah, so they could have really kind of made... This was also on Broadway, too. I don't know what that was like, but anyway, they could have made it more focused and not have this huge, long first half.
Well, they could have kind of changed it and adapted it, because that's the thing about movies that are based on plays that are really hard, is that sometimes the people who make the movies, they don't adapt anything. They just they just straight up copy and paste the play.
Yeah,
But then
shouldn't have done that.
other times, like, they might change it a little too much, but like this movie, I don't really think they probably changed anything.
No.
And I think that that first part is just, I don't know, that whole first half, like the thing with, there's this one scene that's particularly really kind of strange, and Safi thought it was strange too, where Jimmy Stewart and his love interest, they're sitting on a park bench together, and there's something about like the sound, like they're having sound quality issues, and I couldn't understand a word they said the entire scene.
Well, you know what I thought he was going to do? I thought he was going to propose to her.
Yeah.
They were on their way to the ballet. That's what she told her family. And he said, no, I want to take you right here. And they stopped at this park bench, and it's a beautiful night out.
This scene lasts for like 20 minutes or
And
something.
it just went on, and nothing happened, really, did it?
They danced with some kids.
Yeah, well, that was okay, because it was different.
Yeah, like these random kids came up to them, and they said, like, you have to give us a couple of coins for us to dance with you or something. It was really weird. I was like, what the hell's going on in this movie?
Wait for them to eat. They were probably poor, and they were getting money.
Really?
Yeah, a couple of them knew how to dance really well. They knew all these tap dancing, and you could just tell they knew how to dance.
Well, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it came out of nowhere. It felt like, what's going on here?
And then they had this thing with the sign,
Yeah,
which I didn't get that at all.
They had this sign, and I didn't understand the sign either. And for some reason, I guess Jimmy Stewart takes it and then puts it on his girlfriend.
And on the back of her, she has a beautiful, long, flowing gown. And she had like a cape, something like that, and he hung it on the back of her. It said nut, N-U-T. So I didn't get, and so then they don't go to the ballet.
Well, the other side of the sign said something else, though. I can't remember what it said, or
I don't know.
It might not have been legible.
I didn't understand it.
I
didn't understand the nut. Or you could say, oh, you look at her, she's a nut, so she's being labeled a nut, and that's why that sign's on the back.
It was basically just for comedy.
Yeah.
And I thought, yes, comedy is good, but you want it to make sense.
Yeah.
And it just didn't make sense for me.
No, it didn't make sense for me either.
The whole first half of the movie was basically just character development with, like, setting up these two families. You have one rich family, and you have a poor family, and you kind of see, like, what both they're like at home, and it turns out that two of the kids from each family are in love with each other.
Like a Romeo and Juliet type of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And it's like, I really didn't get that until over half of the movie was over. Like, just the first half, I was just sitting there like, what is going on? I don't know what this movie is, and I don't like it. And it's like, oh, another Safi movie. Another movie that she picked out without really examining it. But then in the second half, it actually turns into a movie with a story and characters, and it gets a lot better. It gets a lot more...
it's funnier. There's a lot of more laughs, I thought.
Yeah, a lot smarter, and just overall, just way better. The first half, though, needed to be, like, entirely reworked, in my opinion. Like, their attempts at jokes in the first half were really, really weird. Like, there was this one scene where they're in the restaurant, Jimmy Stewart and his love interest, and all of a sudden, like, he's playing a trick on her, and I don't know, he was acting like something was wrong, and then the waiter came over, the manager, and he said, "What's going on?"
Well, she screamed.
Yeah.
You know, what happened was she thought he was going to make this horrible noise he makes, which I thought was weird. He did make it during the first half. It's some kind of wail or really loud noise, and they're in this restaurant, and his family was there. And he said, "It's coming out. I can't stop it." And then he said, I can't. He's holding his throat. And so it looked like he was going to do that noise. And so she got so scared, she screamed. So the waiter rushes over and says, "My God, what's wrong?" And then what happens, Marco?
And Jimmy Stewart says there's a rat in the restaurant. And then he causes like a public panic type of thing.
Pandemonium.
Which wouldn't he be arrested if he actually did that?
No, they believed him because he's rich. He's from a rich banker's family. And everything they do is perfect, and everything they say is true.
Yeah, and so it's really weird because he makes everyone in the restaurant like run out of the restaurant and leave, and it's like, why is he doing that? Like, is this supposed to be funny? Is that supposed to amuse me? Like, what's going on? Like, it's like, what the hell?
They just strolled out of the restaurant while everybody's running around with their heads cut off.
Yeah.
And there's a girl, and she's standing on top of a table, and she's got her, the classic pose of, it's mostly a woman. I've seen it with Monk, standing up on a table, and they're got their arms up, and they're like, she's holding her skirts up because she thinks there's a rat there. And she's scared, and there's no rat anywhere. He just made it up, and so he and the girl just walk out of the restaurant, and they're laughing and they're smiling. And the waiter, even as they leave, go out the door, he apologizes and said, "I'm really sorry." He still believes him.
Yeah, there was another weird joke where it seems like the people who made this movie or the people who wrote the play, they think that people walking in on other people doing something conspicuous or something is like really funny. And so there's a scene where Jimmy Stewart and his girlfriend are making out in his office, and then his mom walks in, and it's just like, is this like the comedy that they thought was like really, really good in this movie?
Well, Jimmy Stewart is a banker's son, and the banker wants him to take over. And the mother is a snob. And the father is he's pretty much a snob too. He's a really successful businessman. And she is from this eclectic family where they have all kinds of people living with them. And there's inventors and musicians and dancers. And there's an African-American couple, and they cook. And they're all, they all get along, and they're all in each other's lives. And it's very, the best word for me to say is eclectic, and they're very open-armed, and they just open-minded, and they just love life. They live their lives. A couple of them make fireworks, and then they have this guy come in. One of the recent guys comes in. He makes toys. He makes you have a basket and a rabbit, and it can move. It's a robotic thing, which is pretty interesting for 1938.
Well, would you agree with me that the mom is the worst character in the movie?
Yes, she's the worst character.
Because she never really changes. Even at the end of the movie,
no.
She's still the same, and they basically say, she'll come around in a while. And it's like, okay.
They all sit at the dinner table together.
That was funny, though.
All these different people, and now the African American people, they're the ones who cook the dinner, and they're not sitting at the table. I want to emphasize that, but still, they all seem to live together under the same roof, and so anyway, I just wanted to say that. But the banker, he makes like the grandpa, the girl's grandpa says, and he tells the banker, you're just going to be miserable. That's what I was 35 years ago, and I knew it. I walked out, and I never returned. And the whole thing was about they wanted to buy the grandpa's house. That's where all the people lived, and then all of the properties around all of the people would then have to sell too, and the whole area would be empty. So they could, this banker and these other men were going to develop all that property. So that's what, and so in the end it changed, and the banker made a.
I don't know why you're just going through the whole movie.
Well, the
like,
banker made
like,
a
I don't know
huge
why
change
you're doing that.
and decided to be a good person and relax. But the mother, his wife, was a biatch during the whole movie and all the way up and.
You spent like 10 minutes like describing that.
Well, that's it. There's nothing else to say.
Oh, okay. Well, I would also like to say they have this character at the beginning of the movie, and he's this older man who works at, I think, the bank, and he's the one who made this toy that Safi talked about. And it was really weird because they kind of started the movie off where, like, he was the main character, or, like, the co-lead, and he's like, I work at this terrible job, and I just wish I could do what I want to do. I like to make up things. And I didn't know if that was supposed to be funny, too, of, like, instead of saying I like to invent things, he says I like to make up things. Like, was that supposed to be funny?
And I didn't understand what he meant by them, but then he produces this movable rabbit in a hat. And all the other employees crowd around. They think it's really cool. And the thing is, he works in the bank. And what he does, he's balancing the books. So he's sitting there, and if you've seen a calculator, the old calculators that spew out the tape, well, this is like way older than that. And he just constantly, it's all, I mean, can you imagine going to the bank? We went through this in East Africa, where everything is done manually. There's no computer. So everything has to be written in and added manually. And he had a calculator. And so that's all he does all day long. He had a gigantic book, and he's balancing the books. And the grandpa comes in, he sees that, and he says, you really want to do this for the rest of your life? And that's how this all comes about.
Anyways, as I was trying to say before Safi started to describe the entire movie.
No, I'm not.
I don't know why you keep doing that. Anyways, because I was trying to make a point and you just interrupted me and talked for like 10 minutes. So I couldn't even make my point. But anyways, they try to make it seem like this guy's going to be the main character. And the father of the nice family, he invites him to come over and live with them. And I guess work on his own business and make up things. And that didn't really make sense to me, because once he comes to their house, his character basically disappears.
Yeah.
And I guess that he was just like an example of why this family is so nice and what they do for people. But it didn't work for me, because he never, I mean, he kind of disappears for the rest of the movie, except there's this one part where he comes out and he's got a mask on that he made, and he's just, it's out of nowhere, and it's like, what the fuck is that? And then he disappears again, and you never see him again. And I thought that was strange, for sure. Like, that character felt kind of useless to me. Like, his character really didn't make me think that the family was any more nicer than I already thought that they were. So.
Well, he made 2 masks, but that was just really strange, because the things that they were showing him doing, like the robotic rabbit, and then he was carving these tall wooden statues. And then he shows up with this mask, and then he did another mask. One of them looked like a Wolfman mask, and he made some comment about it that I don't remember, but which I thought was interesting, because I felt like he said he was making it for a movie or something about a creature that eats people, or I don't know, just something like that. But Marco's right. He just and then he just disappeared, but he was there, because they all had dinner together at the end.
I guess he was living in the basement or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, God. But anyways, I don't know what else well, I guess we could get into the main story that happens in the second half because, as I said, the first half I really did not like, but then the second half, the movie actually got pretty good, I would say. In the second half, Jimmy Stewart thinks it's a good idea to take his girlfriend to the rich house.
He'll take his parents.
To the nice house, take his family to the nice house, unexpectedly, like the day before they were supposed to come there.
For dinner.
Because he didn't want his family to pretend for them, and he wanted them to accept them for who they were, and everything completely goes wrong. And I'll say that I kind of like that aspect to it, because I think in like another movie, everything would have just worked out perfectly, and it's like, oh, it was perfect, and everything was so great, but not in this one. In this one, it's like, everything goes wrong, it's terrible, like, they don't even have enough food, and they're talking about, like, canned salmon. Yeah. Like, go to the store and get some canned salmon. Like, for what? Are they gonna make salmon patties?
Maybe.
Like, but I don't know.
I don't know either, because back then, they made all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah.
I don't remember, it was just the Depression.
Well, I guess that's part of the comedy, but they really didn't emphasize it much, because then at the end they eat whatever they eat, and they don't make fun of that, so...
But they never... That was one thing I was disappointed. They didn't say what they were eating. I kind of liked that when they do that. Because they had the table, it was all set perfectly, and you're talking about, geez, how many people you think were sitting at the table? A dozen? Or maybe, a dozen, 12 people?
Yeah.
So, it was a pretty packed table. And they had all the nice dishes and the silverware, and so with really nice dishware. This was china, and it may have been silver. So anyway,
and they all end up getting arrested, and this is probably one of my favorite parts of the movie, because when they went to court, I really liked that the nice family, they were fined $100 for illegally making fireworks without a license. And that was another one of the weird jokes that really felt like it was a part of a play to me. Because I could totally imagine if it was a play, you'd have someone off stage, like, throwing something on the floor, and it's like, oh no, it's the fireworks!
And
oh no!
Big time. I didn't understand that. They shot off every firework they had ever made. And you're talking about Roman candles and just regular firecrackers. All went off in the basement. You could see them flying up out of the windows, and everybody's running for cover, and they got in trouble. I think what's with the what would that be? That organization that goes after people who with the arms.
Arms?
ATF.
They
maybe.
go after people with arms?
Yeah, like armaments, like guns, but this was fireworks. I don't know if that's true, because this is 1938. Things have changed, but they did come in there. They had these, fedoras, like G-men, like FBI, but I thought they were like ATF, but I don't know if they had that ATF back then. But anyway.
Well, I really liked the part where they were in court, as I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And the dad had to pay this fine, and originally the lawyer of the rich guy was gonna have the rich guy pay it for him, so that he could look better in the newspapers. But the nice guy was like, no, we don't want your money. And so then all these people who are the friends of this guy, the friends of this family, they all ran up there with all sorts of coins and dollars and, whatever they had, and they just all put it in this little hat, and even the judge put in a couple of coins. And I just thought that was really cool. And it was such a great moment in the movie when, like, the rich guy wasn't allowed to, give them his pity money.
Yeah, because he had 3 or 4 lawyers there
Yeah.
representing him. They didn't have a lawyer. And you know what this was like? It's a Wonderful Life at the end. Remember, Mr. Potter stole their money from the bank savings and loan, and he had his employees steal. It was in a newspaper that Billy had, and then at the end, all the town, the family, all these people who loved this family.
Now you're going to go through that movie?
Well, they gave them money just like that. They passed around a big basket and everything.
Well, I haven't seen that part of that movie because I don't want to. So.
Well, anyway, that's what it was like.
Oh.
So if you've seen that movie, you would see it's the same kind of thing. And the judge was actually really good too.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to put up with this banker and his lawyers.
Yeah.
And let them just do whatever they wanted. So I thought that was cool.
Well, it was also funny because the banker, the bad guy, he wanted this one guy to set up the nice family so that they could get in trouble and then get kicked out of their house. And then ironically, Jimmy Stewart invited that family over when they would get in trouble by that guy. So that's another thing that I really like, that everything worked out badly and good at the same time. So yeah,
it was fun, and it was see, after you get through that first half,
it all gets better and it makes
moves,
sense.
It moves along too, and it's more together and crisp.
Yeah.
And so the other part, it was a little bit too, like Marco said, character development and just dragging things out and having scenes that did, like the one at the park, at the bench, that didn't make sense. And then even at the restaurant with the rat, although that turned out that was kind of funny, it's still the first part of it where she's got that sign on and everybody's laughing and they're disconcerted because they forget. Jimmy Stewart forgets that he put that sign on the back of her.
Well, I like the part where the main girl, that she's wearing this funny outfit the whole movie with suspenders, and you never see women nowadays wearing suspenders unless they're really fat. For some reason, really fat women nowadays, they love to wear suspenders.
I don't know what Marco's talking about, but I've never seen any girls wearing suspenders.
But I've never see Margot Robbie and Barbie wearing suspenders or something like that, and so it was a really unique outfit, and I really thought it worked well on her, because there was this one funny scene where she was sliding down the stairwell, and that was really funny. Right, Safi?
Yeah.
What was up with that? She
was going down the banister. It was a big banister, and she slid down the whole thing. And then she popped down, and his parents are there, and the wife is a biatch, and the father is that's when he's on the dark side, I should say, and they look at her and she has these suspenders on, which I thought those were suspenders, and I'm like, I've never seen a woman wearing suspenders.
Well, and I think now that we've seen that, I think that more female characters should have suspenders as a part of their main outfit, because I don't know, it's just really unique to me.
Well, it adds kind of something to the character.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
I really don't know what though, because she doesn't really have much of a character except for she's the love interest, and she gets a little sad at one point, and there's a little sad period where she runs away, and her letter is really funny. She's like, I feel really terrible, and so I cried myself to sleep last night, and it made me feel a little bit better. And it's just, I don't know, it was a really funny letter. Right, Safi?
Well,
the thing she was saying.
This was in the courtroom, and she says, I don't care if I ever get with your son. You people are snobs, and I don't want to have anything to do with you. And mainly because the mother kept saying terrible things. So so she, and so she runs away, and she mails this letter, and it's over dramatic, and
Really?
but it's it is what it is. So, but no, those suspenders were, I've never seen that before, and I wasn't even sure if they were suspenders. That was the thing, because I'd never seen it before. So.
Anyways, there's also, I really like the title of the movie, You Can't Take It With You, because what it's referring to is that Lionel Barrymore, he goes on this rant in the jail against the banker, and he just completely roasts him, and he says, like, you don't have any friends, you're going to end up alone, and you're going to have a miserable life, and you're doing all this evil stuff to earn this money that you don't need.
And what are you going to do with it all?
And you can't take it with you, as in, like, you can't take it to heaven. Right. And it's like, geez, like, he completely, like, destroyed him. Like, so I thought that was really cool. I really liked that part, too.
Well, also, the grandpa plays the harmonica, and he has an extra one. And he gives it to the banker, so that figures into the ending. Yeah,
the ending is also a great part where the big fat bag banker changes, and then he comes over to their house, and he gives it back he sells it back to them, and they're just playing harmonicas together in the living room, and then the family joins in, and that was a really great scene too, and so. They really stuck the landing somehow, even though, like, the first half was miserable and terrible, and I was going to go on, like, an hour-long rant saying, Safi, she picked another old people movie. It actually turned out to be a great movie. So, it's funny when that happens, too. That doesn't really happen a lot. Like, nowadays, if the movie's bad in the first half, the movie's going to be bad in the second half. Because that's just
really kind of rare.
Yeah, that never happens nowadays. But in this movie in the 1930s, you could have a terrible first half like this movie, and then you could have a really, really good second half and feel kind of like your Two-Face. Right, Safi?
Yep.
Safi? What else do you have to say about this movie?
Well, there's also Ann Miller, if you've ever heard of this actor. She lives with the family. Actually, she's her sister, the main girl's sister. And she was a dancer, a really good tap dancer. Until she was really old. She danced all the way from her youth and she was like primo. She was excellent. They talk about Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, but this woman was a supreme tap dancer. So she didn't do tap dancing. They had a keyboard, and her husband would play it, and she would do twirls and just like ballet kind of stuff. And she could do, because you do that in tap dancing, if you do turns, you practice doing it to where you don't get dizzy by staring at a fixated object. But that's all that. But she would do that all throughout the movie. Every time she heard some music, she'd start dancing, just like ballet stuff, like doing twirls and hopping around. And
I'll say that I will say my biggest criticism of the second half, because this movie, it all depends on whether you want these main two characters to get together, and I really didn't care very much. So I feel like to improve this movie in the first half, they should have made the romance better. They should have set up the romance better, and reworked the play, reworked the theater script where it's just, hey, let's sit around and talk for 20 minutes about income taxes. Like, they had this whole part where it was just like a little side note, like it was like a what do you call it? A tangent about taxing people, and it was completely out of nowhere, and it felt like you could have taken this out of the movie. You wouldn't have lost anything, and you could replace it with stuff that has to do with the romance between Jimmy Stewart and the girl. Because I really didn't care. I wasn't really invested in the girl as like a love interest. Like, I just kind of thought, these are just kind of typical pretty people in 1930s movies getting together. They're probably going to get together, so I don't really care. You know, you even see them get together on the poster. You see Jimmy Stewart in his little trench coat and his stupid hat, and you see the girl, and they're hugging, and it's like, oh, okay, we know they're going to get together, obviously. They're not going to have them split apart and one of them dies or something at the end, like that one movie, or both of them die like a love story. Is that the movie?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Never
your favorite.
Never having to say you're sorry.
Isn't that your favorite, Safi?
Not really.
It's like, that's crap.
But it was like, it's almost like, it's so memorable.
Really?
I mean, without even remembering everything that went on in the movie, love is never having to say you're sorry. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, I would say
it's iconic.
I would say that they should have written a better script.
Yeah,
because that was retarded.
Because I really, and you know that was part of the movie. I mean, it was built around the families, but it mainly, to me, it was mainly the grandpa versus the banker that had more of a focus in the story, and how the banker made a 160-degree turn in his thinking and his change of behavior, complete change, and his wife, of course, stayed the same, but still, and the grandpa, just how he had all these friends, and he was so relaxed and easygoing, and so to me, even though you had this Romeo and Juliet kind of story, that wasn't as strong as the grandpa versus the banker.
Yeah, but the thing is that what I was saying though is that the whole romance story, like the whole reason the two grandparents are fighting, is because, or the two parental figures are fighting, is because of the romance. It's because of the daughter of this nice but poor family wants to be with the son of the rich family.
Yeah, she's a stenographer, and that's just not acceptable.
Yeah.
To them.
Well, I don't know. So, anything else to say, Safi, before we rate it in terms of food? Because I think that we've pretty much gone through everything in the movie.
I think we did. So, if you want to check this movie out, just be forewarned that the first half is a little slow. But it builds up the contrast between the two families.
Not in a good way, though, because
not in a good way.
It didn't really matter to me. I was kind of zoning out. I was like, I'm ready to go on a rant right now because of Safi. And
he was getting mad at me.
Yeah, because I was like, this is like Sherlock Holmes all over again. Sherlock Holmes and the Voice of Terror.
That was a horrible. That wasn't even a movie. I don't know what that was. That was almost like a commercial that they strung out to be a movie and
a propaganda commercial.
Yeah, it was a propaganda. They would be the first to admit it back then, I'm sure.
For the war.
war.
And I was like, this is Sherlock Holmes 2.0.
But it wasn't. It was really entertaining. I think they did that big thing on Broadway, and of course it was a play, and then they had this movie, so it was fair. And Frank Capra had a way of, doing feel-good. I would say feel-good movies.
Really?
And using real characters, versus, just everyday characters versus these, not eclectic, they're snobby, rich people, and how barren their lives are. They really don't. All the money in the world isn't going to give them character and make them interesting. And they're not going to, like he said, you can't take it with you. You can't take all that money He says, why do you care about having all this money? You can't take it with you. In other words, you get all this money, you have so much money, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it all? And he was right. And
buy hookers and cocaine. That's what he should. That's what he would have said.
So anyway, so it was just really, I would say it was a pretty simple message.
Why are you turning your chair over like you think this review is over? You haven't even given a food review.
I'm just moving because
No, you're not.
I have a sore back.
That's what you like to do now. You like to turn your chair over so you can start to live like a weirdo, like you're trying to escape.
Is really
like you think you can escape, but you can't.
Pill.
You can't escape, Safi.
Okay, well we have to do the food review now.
You can't take it with you.
And you can't take it with you. And gee, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I just think maybe a Swiss steak dinner.
Really?
Which probably is not right. I just don't know. If you don't have a lot of money back then, it's 1938. What would you have? What would you eat?
What would you have?
What would you eat?
Well, I would...
What would you serve? I mean, they were talking about canned salmon. My God, we can't even get canned salmon now.
That's a lie.
Hardly at all.
We can still... It's just not the kind that we like. That's a lie. That's an elitist lie.
No, it's not.
It is.
They used to have more available than they do now.
Well, maybe the salmon are pissed off and they don't want to be eaten anymore.
Well, that does have something to do with there's a shortage because it's overfished. Because people like salmon. So
let's see.
Some overfishing.
Because I would like to eat. I would like to eat 1930s dishes. 1930s dinners. Let's look it up.
Well, they have this stuff, this aspic.
Oh, well, they had...
That?
Well, there was a movie that I watched at the beginning of the year where they made this whole joke about how they were so excited to serve aspic at this party.
Oh, God.
And it was like this really important party, and they had this aspic, and it fell on the floor, and they showed it, and they like carved it to make it look like a pig or something. It was really hilarious. And, yeah.
All I can think of is like stew, or because they never talked about what they were having, and everybody had food. It looked like there was a lot. I'm talking about a whole table full of people. At least a dozen.
I did make
more.
I did make Jean Harlow's cottage pie, and that might have been. I mean, she was in the 30s, so I think that could be something that they could have.
The late 30s. That might make a difference. Oh,
navy bean soup, bacon roll-ups.
So
cabbage.
Cornbread and beans. But this is the city. That's more of a southern thing.
I don't
Hold
know.
up. Is that succotash? No, it's beans, bacon,
bake.
and tomato bake.
I don't know what a bake
that was
is.
lima beans. Oh my God.
Ew.
Oh my God. It is.
Spinach souffle side dish.
That's hard to believe.
So they could afford side dishes in the Depression?
Oh, well, it's a later part of it. A crunchy tuna salad with tomatoes.
I don't know if these are really accurate.
I don't either. I'm going to have to do some research, but, gee. And this is the city, too. I would say maybe some kind of stew. A really good stew.
I thought you already rated it. You already gave it a Swiss steak dinner.
No, I don't know because that's steaks.
What the hell is milk toast?
I've heard of that.
Milk toast?
It's gross.
I thought that milk toast was like a word like milk toast.
It is. It's because of that.
What?
You call somebody that because they're boring and bland.
Ooh.
So that's boring and bland.
It says you put bread with milk,
Oh,
boiling milk,
yeah,
butter, flour, more milk, and salt. What the
I think
hell?
it's a poor person's food.
What the hell?
It's bread and milk
Ooh.
and butter.
Ooh.
So I think I'd just give a stew and probably biscuits.
Why can't you at least put cinnamon on it? Basically like cinnamon toast cereal.
But see, that wouldn't go with the characterization of somebody when you say, God, there's exciting as milk toast.
But they don't say milk toast, they say milk toast.
Well, it's all one word, I think, right?
Yeah, let's see. Milk toast. Milk toast. Milk
No, it's
toast.
milk toast.
Ooh, they have pictures of it. It looks
Oh,
like
I know.
something
Oh,
I don't want to
God.
talk about. But anyways, it looks like cat vomit.
It
Yeah,
is-
milk toast.
Oh, yeah, MILQUE. And
Yeah.
then toast is the regular. Now, there you go. A timid, meek, or non-assertive person.
Like you.
No.
Like Sherlock Holmes. Like your mom. Anyways, I would give this movie, this movie made me think about salmon patties. And I really used to hate eating salmon patties. There was this one night that I remember in particular where I was being forced to watch The Sound of Music upstairs. And we had salmon patties, and they were really dry and disgusting. And they were always dry and disgusting. And they were just so bad.
You know who made them? It wasn't me.
So flavorless. And years later, we actually decided to start having salmon patties again. And we found a new recipe, thankfully. And I actually really like salmon patties now.
Me too.
So the first half of the movie is like the old salmon patties. And the second half is like the new version that I really like.
Yeah, I think that's. Maybe you could type in, back in 1938, if you had a can of salmon, what would you do with it for dinner or something like that? It's probably salmon patties, like you said. I don't know what else it would be.
Yeah, they have no, they don't say anything about the 30s. Yeah. It says that it costs less than a nickel for canned
Huh.
salmon.
Maybe a lot of people didn't eat it much. It wasn't like tuna. Oh, salmon loaf. I bet that's
Ew.
it. I bet that's what they ate.
Really?
Yeah.
Ew. Anyways, there's a salmon pasta bake. That kind of sounds like it could be okay. Or it could be really dry.
I can't see that unless they were Italian. I don't know if people, unless, you're talking about macaroni and cheese, and that's actually pasta, but, and also, what's the, turkey tetrazzini is pasta.
Yeah, Safi won't let me eat turkey tetrazzini except
That's
for
not
like once a
true.
year.
It's a Thanksgiving dish.
It's not. You can have it any time of the
You
year.
have to have the turkey.
So get some turkey. Well,
I found
Safi.
a recipe for it. Actually, it's funny you should bring that up.
Oh,
I just found a recipe for it from the past, from 2007. So
good. Well,
anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers. And we will see you later. Bye.
Bye.